the connections between previous Xenoblade games have been, well, if you blink, you might miss it. Or if you're not paying attention for a second, you might miss it. As, for example, we know that Xenoblade 1 is connected to 2 because when you are fighting Malos and the Architect dies, you hear Shulk fighting Zanza in the background. And then in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, we learn that Alvis is an Aegis because of the core crystal that's the Aegis core crystal on his chest. So we know the worlds are connected, but there has not been as clear and explicit of a connection than there has been in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, before I get into this video topic, this is going to contain massive spoilers for the entirety of Xenoblade 3 and pretty much Xenoblade in general, right? So I'm spoiling literally everything Xenoblade related. So if you haven't beaten any Xenoblade game, I don't know why you'd be watching this video in that case, but it's particularly if you haven't beaten Xenoblade 3, go beat it and then come back to this video. I tried to keep the thumbnail as spoiler free as possible, but still give insight as to what the video is. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So Shulk and Rex do not make an appearance during the main story, but at the end we see a picture of adult Rex, which is him having kids with all Pyra, Mithra, and Nia, right? And so we know that after the events of Xenoblade 2, Rex gets with the three of them, right? And then in terms of the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 characters, we see Shulk, if you complete Melia's Ascension quest, we see Melia have a flashback to Shulk and everyone. Now, in the context of Xenoblade 3, I touched on this in my previous video, but as I've been looking into it, both of them are technically dead in the events of Xenoblade 3. But they both lived long lives fighting Mobius, right? We know that both Rex and Shulk were the first Mobius. Both of them were a Mobius, right? We know this because if you look at the statues, if you look at the statue of the guy who says that he wielded two great swords and lost an eye, that one-eyed monster, that's a reference to Xenoblade 2. But not only that, what other character do we know wields two great swords? Rex. He has both Aegis swords, right? And in terms of Shulk, we see the younger inventor Shulk type have a statue, but we also see another statue of someone who lost an arm, and it says that this guy had a really powerful red sword, and this was a second statue of Shulk. It says that this second statue was this is all the statues in the city. The second statue was stated not to be of that Ouroboros candidate. However, it was her mentor. So Shulk raised somebody that almost like a child, right? So we know that Shulk and Rex both live pretty long lives, but die in the events of Xenoblade 3. We know Xenoblade 3 takes place over the course of thousands of years, but it is thousands of years in a frozen moment. So, at the end of the game, when time goes back and the worlds pass through each other, and time reverts back to when the worlds first were going to merge, we know that Rex and Shulk were present when the worlds merged because they were fighting Mobius, and Mobius exclusively appeared or began to appear when the worlds merged because they were the only force keeping the worlds together in the quote-unquote present now, keeping that there. So Shulk and Rex are dead, but technically would be alive at the end of the game because time would reverse, and time would reverse to before Mobius took over the world. We know this because at the end, if you pay attention, when we see Kid Noah, the flame clock is not there. If the flame clock is not present, that would mean Mobius is not in the world, meaning Rex and Shulk would still be alive. So, that's the quick thing about why they aren't there, present in the game. Presumably, we can also assume that Pyra and Mithra have passed at some point in the course of these thousands of years. Even though blades are supposed to be immortal, we know that the rules of blades and how they work changed, as I theorized in my previous video before Xenoblade 3 come out, about will blades be able to have kids. We know blades can have kids now, which was previously, to all, for what we know, not really something that was possible. But now we know blades are considered humans and can have kids. And I believe that means blades can still have long lives, but I don't believe they are immortal inherently, because there's no sign of blades returning to core killer crystals, right? We don't see, when someone dies in this world, even if they're a blade, they're done, you know? So that would mean that immortality, while blades could live on for a long period of time, they likely are not immortal anymore. Meaning Pyra and Mithra likely passed away at some point in the past, which is why Nia has both of their swords, and Nia likely was the candidate that was selected to, you know, live on, right? Because Nia would be able to live longer as a flesh eater. Same as why Melia would be selected, as Melia is a Hyentia, so she would be able to outlive the main party, and would likely be able to we know Melia is able to live being sealed, right, for thousands of years, right? So that's likely why Melia and Nia were selected, because they can live longer than people in their respective universes. Even then, you would think Pyra and Mithra as Aegises would probably live longer than Nia, because Nia is just a flesh eater. She's not an Aegis. Well, I guess the question would lie, does she become an Aegis after having the two Aegis swords? I don't know. But regardless, we know that got a real big family on Rex's side, right? So Rex has 3 kids. Wow. And I think the DLC is going to expand on that. Yes, I'm still working on a video talk about the DLC, but we'll get into that later. In terms of the Xenoblade 1 side, I think that Chris, who was taught Noah how to be an Offseer, he looks a lot like what Shulk and Fiora's kid would look like, right? And so my theory with that is that everyone in the world that is reincarnated or that is a soldier or whatnot is someone who was alive when the worlds merged, right? So they don't have memories of who they were before the worlds merged, right? But they were still there. I feel this highly because if you do Nia's Ascension quest, it's practically confirmed that Mio is Nia's daughter. There's multiple instances where Nia is trying to say something to Mio but pulls back, and they heavily imply that that Mio is Nia's kid, which means Mio wouldn't remember that, but that's because the worlds merged in Mobius. But when we go back, when the worlds unpause, I think that people go back to what their previous lives were, right? So that would mean that, you know, that would mean that whoever the people we see, all the soldiers, whoever they were before the worlds merged, that's what they go back to. So Noah goes back to being a kid, Mio goes back to being the daughter of Nia. And yeah, I think Chris is, sorry about the background noise, but I think Chris is Shulk and Fiora's kid. Looks literally like Shulk and Fiora. And if you look at the statue of adult Shulk, the second statue of Shulk, because there's 2. One is him being younger, and the other one is him older. The older one has longer hair, meaning that I think adult Shulk grows his hair out just like Chris. And, you know, in the trailers, a lot of people think Chris was going to be a background character, but they gave him light and they gave him a little bit of attention, and I don't think they would have done that if he didn't have a connection. So I think Chris is Shulk and Fiora's kid. It is unclear if Shulk also had multiple partners, like if Shulk got with both Melia and Fiora, because we know that it is not uncommon in Xenoblade for people to have multiple partners. I mean, given Rex, but specifically when it comes to Hyentia, we know the king of the Hyentia has 2 wives, one Hyentia, one Homs. So what's to say Shulk didn't have 2 wives, one Hyentia, one Homs, you know? There's clearly a connection also between Melia and Uni, but it is not nearly as hinted at or explained or shown off as much as the clear connection between Mio and Nia. Mio and Nia share a whole lot of appearances, and Melia and Uni, the only real similarity is that they are the only 2 Hyentia that have pretty large wings. Uni, of all the Hyentia in the game, or descendants of Hyentia in the game, Uni is the only one with wings similar to the size of Melia. So that shows there's got to be some sort of connection. So if Uni is not Melia's daughter, there's a chance Uni could be maybe Tyrea's daughter or something. I'm not sure, but Uni definitely has a connection somewhere to Melia, or at least pretty, I'd want to say, higher members of the Hyentia, because if you notice, like, usually the status is ranked with like sort of like the wing size. People who have bigger wings are a little bit higher status. Granted, this kind of changes after all the Telethia, after all the Hyentia change into Telethia, but regardless, anyway, that is what I think we have based off Xenoblade 3 as the fates of Shulk and Rex. Both of them are dead in Xenoblade 3, but at the end would come back to life because the worlds would unpause. And Nia says at the end of Xenoblade 3, "I'll see you soon," and that's because she knows when the worlds go back, she's gonna be back with her boo thing, Rex, and her daughter, and you know, things are gonna go back to the way they were. And so if you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like. I got some more Xenoblade 3 content coming out. I was trying to be wary of posting, more careful of posting spoiler videos, because I don't want to post videos and see people get spoiled. So the thumbnail right now, I'm trying to keep it as spoiler free as possible. You know, I think everyone's gonna know that obviously something happened to Shulk and Rex because we see Melia and Nia in the trailers. So I think it's clear that a lot of people want to know what happened to them. So I don't think it's that big of a spoiler. It's not like I'm posting the picture in the thumbnail of Rex with Pyra, Mithra, and Nia having kids, right? Nah, but let me know what kind of topics you want me to discuss about Xenoblade 3. Like I said, I'm working on the discussion video about the DLC, and that's going to come out in the near future. I saw someone comment about that, so that's going to be out in the near future. But regardless, I hope you guys like this video, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Got more Xenoblade 3 content on the way. And so I think it's been out for a month, so I can do a little bit more videos. I was really struggling doing videos and then not spoiling it in the thumbnail. But if I'm too vague in the thumbnail, no one's gonna want to watch the video. But anyway, I hope this is a good balance. I hope. I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't spoil anything. I mean, the thumbnail doesn't spoil anything. Obviously, if you watch this video, it's a spoiler. But you know, I tried to avoid major spoilers in the thumbnail. But yeah, see y'all in the next video. Love y'all.